Computer. Lights.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. We're cleaning up the monitor. So I wasn't here yesterday because we took a break. And I was going to tell you all about it, but Wednesday, the internet just died in the middle of the show. Just died. Gone. Well, Brent, you didn't miss anything because I wasn't here. So my kiddo has Thursday and Friday off, and my wife had Wednesday and Thursday off. So we took Thursday off and we went to the museum and we wandered around and looked at things, and it was really cool. And it was a nice break. So you missed nothing, Brent. You missed nothing at all. So you were traveling for work, though. That's a thing. Not only that, look at you. You're like right on target here. You're like Johnny on the spot. So yeah, he's at fall break. And so that was he just his normal fall break, I guess. But it still was just kind of a nice, convenient alignment of all things. We were open on a Thursday, which allowed us to do the visit to the museum without the museum being super crowded. Yeah. They fall broke. Well, no, actually, they're not doing a full break because he's back to school on Monday. This is first to second quarter break, or first to second doodly wop. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. So, no fall break there, huh? You have no fall break. So you and your kiddo are doomed to just stick it out through the remainder of the time, huh? This is the way it goes. All right. I'm still working on the model, which actually is probably a good thing because some of these models, if you talk professionally, the professional level of these models, they are worked on for months. And so these models will be, I've been working on this model for a while now, and we've managed to do a lot of good work on it over the last couple of days. So now this is our wonderful beloved Kittiwake, who's sort of going through all the motions here for getting completely fixed up to be the final version of this. Fail to set your value. Why? What's the story? It is lined up, right? Or is this one of those Boolean errors where you need to move it a fraction of an inch? Right? I see it going through the hull. There. We might center it a little bit more. This is the after docking port. You're totally into this R2D2 thing now. Okay, you and you. There we go. It just needed to move over. Sometimes when you do a union Boolean, it just needs to move over. Okay, so I've added the docking ports to the ship now, so I know where the docking ports are on the actual physical deck plans, as well as in the actual ship. There are a couple of other things that I want to make sure I've got clear in the deck plans. Like, for example, here is a separation point from the front and the back of the ship. And I know at least 2 decks go through that separation point. So I'm going to make sure I have those set up properly. So that they are. See, that's what I thought. This deck must not have been in there correctly whenever this Boolean was set up. Because I'm seeing, like, the Boolean is off. This guy here is off. Which is irritating, because the whole point behind that Boolean was so that they'd all be straightened out. To get an FDM printer or a PLA printer? Because you're talking, I'm kind of confused here. Or is FDM and PLA the same thing and I just said it again? Like you corrected me 4 times in the show on Monday? You only corrected me 4 times. I'm not expected to remember things. Okay, we're going to have to go pull this. The rest of them are fine, but this one's not. It pushes. You know what would be, this would work just fine if I did this. I'm just going to go on ahead and place this on top of the correct location. Then I'm going to go to edit mode and grab everything except there we go. This is the way to solve this problem. Then we do this, because I really don't care if like, I don't really care if the lines inside here don't line up properly. That's fine. I don't care. But because this is only telling me how to do the there we go. Yeah, that's the way to solve it, rather than delete and redo those holes, which would be silly. I'm going to do that. Okay. Now that we've done that, what we're going to do is go up here and go into object mode, add mesh cube. I'll take this cube and put it right here. Right, all we're gonna do is give us a representation of where the emergency separation system is, so that when I do any kind of deck plans or anything like that, I'll know where this is and I won't have to worry about it. Maybe here? Yeah, there it looks good. So all we're doing is putting a slice through deck 3 and 4. So we're going to go back to object mode, go back here, And we'll put a Boolean in, difference. We're just going to cut that out. And that just puts a hole in there. Apply. And then we'll go down to the next deck, which is down here, and do the same thing. Add modifier Boolean, difference, and then we'll hit that. And that just poked a hole through both decks, right? And that just tells me that it's lined up with this neck piece here, which will allow me to build that into the deck plans themselves. And we take this guy. We don't need him anymore. And delete him. And now we've completed those pieces. So I'm going to be able to, not that one, that one. Move that and this there. And now that we've corrected all of these things, we now have an accurate representation of the internal space of the ship. It didn't. Yeah. Did the Boolean not work? Did I not hit go? Must not have hit go because it cut the hole. Must not have hit apply. Right? There we go. Very important with Booleans to hit apply. Otherwise, they don't take. All right. So we can now see all of the different decks of the ship, and they're actually accurate to the internal design of the ship. We're going to have to do some rearranging of the deck plans a little bit to make them work, because of the fact that we're going to need to, there's just a few things we need to kind of work on the ship here that we're going to have to figure out. One, when I put the landing nose gear on the front of the ship up here in this compartment, it really was way too tight to put in that forward landing ramp that I had originally. So instead, I made an after landing ramp back here. And the reason is also because the mech bay that was inside there to hold mecha had no exit. You literally could not leave the ship. So I figure a landing ramp and a mecha bay ramp, which is this one right here, probably ought to be put aside so that we know that it's there. Would be better. We also probably ought to build that ramp up because it's not built correctly at this point. So we'll go fix that real quick. Take it and put it into edit mode, and then we'll go like this. And we go like this. Like so. This makes it so that the pivot point is right here. We want the pivot point for this guy to be right on the top of the ramp. Now we also will need arms to hold the ramp. Otherwise, the ramp just kind of flops by itself. We don't need that. The other reason that I like this is that I like the idea of a landing ramp being similar to the way that the C-130 or the C-5 Galaxy or any of those use their back loading ramp, where you can drop things into the airstream behind the spacecraft if you need to. Like mecha. If you load a mecha in here, you could put the mecha in the bay and then just roll it out the back, and it will drop into the airstream, which would be very cool. We're going to go back into object mode, add mesh cube. Oh, you know what? This is one of those where if we were actually here, we could go into edit mode and add a cube, and the cube would be part of it. Weird. All right. These are landing arms, or not landing arms. These are drop arms so that they go there. Everything has to be square, otherwise it won't look good drawn. Round things are very hard for me to make look hand drawn. So they're not impossible by any stretch, just difficult, and would mean manually drawing it every time. And I don't want to manually draw pieces of the spacecraft because I have problems remembering to do things. And what'll happen is I will end up doing or releasing a comic where I have forgotten to draw the circle thing through the entire comic of, Spaceship A. And then the next comic, I'll remember to draw the circle thing, and everybody will go, huh, it looks different. So I don't want to mess with that. So everything is as square as it can be. Lower the ramp. See, that should be fine. And the arms there won't be, well, lowered. I don't know if I want, let's see here. The ramp lowers like so. Let's discuss where the down point of this is. That's right. Not there. No, yeah, it's here. It's this line. Just below that line. So we're remotely accurate here. Right there. Okay. What we're doing was we're just going to straighten up this arm so that it is like so. Landing purposes. There we go. Now that we've done that, let's see. There is no doing that. Just make a new one. That's fine. No. There we go. Like this. And we'll take you and put you right there. You put you right there. And you and put you right there. And you and put you right there. That should give me 2 landing struts or 2 lowering struts for that, and that'll be fine. There we go. So now we have, as part of everything else in this particular model, one of a zillion little pieces. But as I said before, this is my hero. The ship will be with me through the entire run of the comic, which if I'm correct, is going to be, let's see here, could be somewhere between, I don't know, could be close to about 4,000 pages, depending on how long I go with this. But I have a plot out for 50 episodes, and 50 episodes is 3 issues, and 3 issues is 32 pages each, so 96 pages per issue. And this is just a ballpark, because of course some of them are only 2 issues and some of them are 4 issues, and and so it depends. But if that's the case, then this design will hold true for some 4,000 pages of comic. And I'm only saying that not to say I'm intending to make 4,000 pages of comic or not, but rather to justify why I'm spending a week literally working on the model. Because 1 week in the grand scheme of things is nothing. Okay, we've got to do the engines and we're done. So the ramp's done, the loading ramp's done. All of the internals are complete. See you in a sec. All right. Okay. And the thing is that I might build different variations of it. Like they may get better gravity wings. Who knows? Or whatever. Or they might get a different engine. But the hull of the ship will stay the same pretty much through all of it. Okay, let's talk about the engines. I made a design choice a while back in my sketchbook. And in the design choice, I was working on the engine designs. I was working on a number of structural designs and concepts here. And one of them is engine design. So we're going to take and put the engine design here. I want the initial engines to be boxy. Okay, so the initial design of this engine is going to be clunky and boxy-er. It needs to be somewhat aerodynamic, as obviously the Kittiwake does fly in the atmosphere. But I intend to make it not very sleek initially. Which will give us room to modify it later and make it sleeker. I'm also not allowed to pass this line right here because at the moment the ship is exactly 100 meters long, which I think is funny. Okay. this down. Pull that down like so. Mm-mm. All right. This part has to be able to sit on the engine nacelle, which is there, the nacelle mount. Do this. There we go. And that looks more like what I envisioned the engine looking like. Like I said, it's clunky. It's supposed to be. That's the top of the engine nacelle. Now, it's got to be able to sit on this mount. So that's an important design piece here. Yeah. I've gone in naked mode. Okay. I take. Yeah. Now we'll look at its alignment. Not very good. We can move it back to here. Click right there. And the mount goes all the way back to here. So let's adjust. Let's get back just a little bit more. We can come halfway for this mount. There. There we go. If we look at it this way, that's how this is working here. It'd be pretty cool. Hey. We probably should make the wing match it. So we will. And actually, I think I want to drop it just a hair and widen it out. Give it a little bit more stability. that we have an engine on here. There we go. A little bit more stability, a little bit more obvious engineering on it. There we go. All right. Now we're going to do the next piece. I started doing some like flying structures. And the more I started doing the flying structures, I really like them. Things that pop out like this, as opposed to opening like this, they pop open more like that. And so I think that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build some flying structures inside the engine pod so that while the engines are at warp, they've got things that pop down. It's kind of weirdly open baleen structure sort of thingy here. It's got a forward hinge right here, and we're going to have another piece under here that pops down and opens up the transportation sails, or the, I don't know. We'll come up with a thing. But the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of arms that come down with like electric sheen of some sort. It does that a lot. I'll move it, and then I'll get to a point where it just slides like really fast all the way. Some kind of bug in the system, but it makes it very difficult to focus in because I have to keep readjusting. Okay. This is the top part of the engine. Make sure there's no gap in here. It would be really weird and embarrassing. There's a gap. Okay, let's fix that. No gap. No capes. Okay. That's all we're going to do with this part of the engine mode. So we'll then go to add mesh cube, and we'll add another piece of the engine. And this piece, you know what? I'm just going to do this. Rather than, we know this piece hinges right here. So I'm going to go in and just start right now with the hingy point being there. Edit. I'm going to go all all the way to the after section of the engine right here. And all the way. And this is kind of ridiculous because, of course, I'm doing all of this planning and we're not there yet. Like, we'll need some other pieces here. What are you doing? That's so weird. Yeah, I know. It's weird. Do this. This goes right here. But Guy, didn't you say you weren't allowed to go past this line right here because that's 100 meters? Maybe. However, the engine nacelle needs to be longer than the wings, than the feathers of the what's it. So there's that. Okay. Put this here and put this there. We're actually just going to pivot that so it matches. Do the same thing over here. So that matches the rakish angle of that interior section. Right now. And now what we have is that closed. So that's the closed engine nacelle. The design calls for a divot inside there, doesn't it? Okay. So we'll go back into naked mode because this is calling for, the design says there's a divot. Right? That's fine, I can work with this. I drew this engine design nacelle on Tuesday. And so, aggravatingly, I have to stay to my design because I told myself I would. Told myself I was not going to mess with this stuff, screw up my designs. Because I sit there and I'd sketch and I'd be like, yeah, that's good. This to be better, this to be better, kind of stuff. And of course, in the end, I'm like, well, that's what we're looking for. That way, this opening in there matches the opening in the on the drawing, and it match. That's what I wanted. this engine design, I'm going to bring that up, I think. Now that I got this in here, open this opening back here. Gap. No, I don't need to. Okay. So here's what the engines do. They open like so. So I'll need to figure out what to do about this. And there will be a web between there of electrical energy, which is the warp engines, spacey engines. I don't know. I just make this stuff up. So this way you can physically see when the ship is at warp. That's important. Which is one of the things I was really after here, was some kind of physicality for it when it's at warp. Something that makes it obvious that the ship is moving at warp speed of some sort, so that there's a physicality to the model. The model does something. One of the things that I think is wonderful about Voyager is that the warp nacelles move up to go into warp drive, so you can see when the ship is at warp. Other than having the stars going like this, which obviously that's a thing, but like the original Enterprise in TOS, when it was at warp, the stars kind of went by, and when it was at impulse, the stars kind of went by. Like they didn't have the technology for it. They didn't understand what they were supposed to be doing. But now I'm thinking a lot about this, and if I can make all the changes I wanted to make, if I have the opportunity to be king about Star Trek, so I'm going to think about the physicality of it. When ships are moving at warp, they should have some sort of visual, and that's what we're doing here. All of the things that happen on this model, you should be able to eye the model in the comic and go, uh-oh, this is going to happen, so that I don't have to have the characters go, "We're at warp, sir. Thank you for telling me that. You're welcome." You just look, and the cells split in half. The little things come on, little things around the warp engines turn on. You get the little whatever, the beams that tell us that something is happening. So, but we also need to look at this and go, wheel, because it digs itself into the top of this. So let's go into edit mode. Let's take this guy and move him over and back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move him like this. I'm going to take all of these. We're going to extrude it forward, because it can't go past here. Right? I'm going to extrude forward one more time. And we're going to take this and move it to here like so. And that'll indicate what our level is for this, because it cannot go past that. There we go. Now we have the hinge. If it's made of stone, that makes it a stone hinge. So when we raise it back up to put it back into its travel position, harder to do than it needs to be, its look will be like this. And that'll be fine. Like I said, I kind of wanted chunky. Chunky I got. But I also have to divot down in these guys, because these guys are a little pokey out. Not you, it's you. It's the problem child. now it's you too. There. I call like this material inside sort of like the baleen of it or whatever. I don't even know what it is, but it looks kind of like in my head, it's striped. It kind of looks like the baleen of a whale. There we go. So now the design, not only does it look sleek like we wanted it to, right? But now it has a physicality and a functionality. This comes down all the way to here. Once that touches there, it no longer goes any further down. And we get this extension of the warp wing. This part is whatever causes it to go to warp, and I haven't come up with the name for it yet. Pushes the ship into in space. Put it back up on its point. Okay. Now we've done all the pieces. We'll save. The model is now complete. All the pieces, parts of this ship are here. So we will, as with everything else, now that we're in object mode, go to object mode, and we will make sure that all the pieces, parts are separated. I do this separation of all the parts so that I will remember which pieces to do in which order. Because at some point in time, we're going to have to now, well, at some point in time is right now. We're going to have to do all of these and map them. We're not mapping the deck plans. That's nice because that would be a pain in the butt. But we are going to map the ship. So I'm going to get started on that. Let's make sure we have all of the pieces separated out because we actually don't, because the nose cone is not separated. There we go. And then I'm not sure if I want to do this. So we're going to move you and you out of the way completely because I don't think I'm going to mess with that. I think I'm just going to draw the docking door on the side of the ship. And the reason for that is because I'm going to use this as a destroyer, raise it up in size and put little windows in like 17 decks in here instead of 5. And then we'll use that hull as a destroyer hull later on. Okay. Now it's time for us to do all the hard work. We've modeled it. Everything on this side of the line now needs to be UV mapped. So we're going to UV map stuff. Everybody ready to get started on that? 10 minutes of startup before we can do that. So we're going to get in here and we're going to start UV mapping stuff. And then take time. Like everything, it takes time. But we'll get done with it. So let's go ahead and do probably the easiest pieces would be the missile door. And this is the important thing is we're going to need to bring up at this point in time a new page, which will be 11 inches by 11 inches square. And this is going to be the page that we're going to start saving all of the maps on. So we're going to save it as, and this is how we do this. This is going to be make it a Photoshop file. We're going to call this the Master Corvette texture maps. PSD. Okay, so when we make a new map, we're going to bring it in here. So we're going to switch to UV editing. UV is not ultraviolet, although that would be funny if it was. UV editing is when you take an object like this and you go into UV editing over here. I don't even know what's going on here. Looks like we have a lot of original annotation which needs to be erased. Okay. I'll turn them off. All right. We've got an object here. We're going to then go up here. I'm going to say, boop, 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 boop. Problem I've got is everything is always like, it works, and then I get over here and I start working on stuff, and I'm like, none of the pieces are the same as they were. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to take you. I'm going to bring you over here. We're going to say window, and then this isn't in the mode. It's not in UV mode. Window. And this is why things are so frustrating with Blender. So well, yeah, of course, the destroyer will be the center hull plus like a neck plus a different kind of beak on the front up here, and then different just resize stuff. But then the sail will be this guy except longer, and the engines will be these guys on the back. So we'll have it. I just can't figure out how to make it go to UV mode over here on this side. I moved it to UV mode, but now I can't. You used to have a, I guess it's new. Oh, new image. That's why. We have to have an image. Okay, fair. UV grid? Nope. Blank. Color grid? Oh, that's kind of cool. Hey, how very useful. Blank. Now I should be able to. Okay. Why do these things have to be edit mode? You have to be in edit mode. No, it has to be in global mode, right? Object mode. I mean, it doesn't give me anything over here in edit mode, does it? I guess it does. Yeah, it does. Okay, that's how we're working. Okay. UV unwrap. That's what it decided to unwrap it as. That's fine. It takes me so long because there's like this procedure that everything has where, oh, well, you need to make sure you're in edit mode. You need to make sure that you're in the proper workspace, and you need to make sure that you're, like all of these procedures, and I never remember them all. There's just too many of them. So it takes me a moment all the time to get here. In this case, though, it only took 5 minutes. Really not that bad, relatively speaking. And so There we go. That. And really, it's just so that we can draw in the lines. There will always be bigger ships. There's always a bigger boat, always a bigger fish. There we go. I don't want these guys to be much bigger than. So when you do like resizing of things, it's always good to, like this, for some reason it just decided that the UV map was, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do now is turn that to that, and turn that to that, because we can now take this and we'll give it just a little bit of space here. The other thing is, the last time we did UV mapping, all the controls, these guys were all up here, which is part of why I get very confused. Is like, if you click this button to get into UV mode, then everything's down at the bottom. If you click this button to get into UV mode, everything's up at the top. And so I get like, did I do it right? Because everything has moved all the tools around. All the toolbars are in different places. It's extraordinarily confusing for me. I'm very location oriented on these things. Right? So, okay. We're going to then hit our new secret weapon. Thank you, Kundi. We're going to hit Windows Shift S. My fan is still spinning. And we're just going to take a snapshot of this, right? That's the thing. We're going to paste it, resize it. We're not going to worry about it right now. We're just going to make sure it's the right size, scaled properly. And then we're going to call this missile door. It says missile with an N. Missile door. We'll design these later. Okay. Some of these are going to be easy. Some of these are going to be really hard. I'm going to go to object mode, select the next object, go to edit mode, and select the whole damn thing. And then look what kind of mess it's made of the thing. Oof. This is enough of a mess that I think I'm going to go in here and actually put a slice in on it. So we're going to go into edit mode. We're going to select like so. It's time for a break, and I'm just going to put in this before we go. Can't rightfully blame it. This is kind of confusing. Okay, and then we're going to UV, and we're going to mark a seam on it like this. We need to mark this as a seam as well. UV mark as a seam. And then that way, we're just going to give it a guidance. But for a minute, here, we're going to move out of here. On the ring camera. Everybody, time to stand up and stretch. Kind of pop your neck, pop your back. All right. Now I'm getting quiet usually because I'm like, how the hell is this supposed to work? You know. So I think I'm not going to mark this seam on the. Here, let's get back to work. The frustrating thing is once you're in here, probably our best option would have been to mark all the seams of everything first. Right? So I'm going to go through here and we're going to actually select this and this. I'm going to go in and clear that seam, and we're going to then put the seam here. And hopefully what this will do is open it up like a flower this way. That's what I'm hoping for. Okay. Now, if we did this right, which, it's questionable, we'll go in here and that's much more like what we're looking for, right? I mean, it's not perfect. It is kind of weird. I like this part over here. Okay. What we probably can do is going ahead and cut that seam like we weren't going to in the first place, but do this. I wasn't going to put this seam in, but now I can't understand. And first of all, it looks like that's cut wrong. Right? Because it really should be not that one. That's the seam. It should be that one. Why can't I select that? Because that's not actually a vertex. That's bizarre. Let's fix that because I think all we're doing is making it mad. We're just de-stressing this guy. Because he's very, very stressed out. There we go. Now we can mark this as a seam. That was a very weirdly stressed seam. Okay. That's still a stressed area, but it's not as stressed now. So now we'll see where it goes. Better. Much better, right? So you can see that as we've cleared it up and made it work better, it comes to a much better sort of operational unit. So this section right here is clearly this section going all the way around the back end of it. So we're going to find a better home for that. I don't know where that home is, but at the moment that's not here. And that's the important part, because these wings are the most important piece. And the reason that they're the most important piece is because they're the ones that are actually going to have writing on it, right? So we want to make sure that we use as much space as possible for these. And these are going to have actual writing. So we're going to give them as much operable space as we can. Okay, I'm going to move this over here. Move this guy. And we could just do this. That at least makes it clear what we're doing. These guys are all bits and pieces behind, or on the front, in the front leading edge. This guy, I need to make sure he's sort of separated. Originally, I wasn't going to detail any of the interior pieces, but now I've been thinking about it, and one of the benefits of having all of these things in little pieces is that we can quite literally have the ship pieces floating in space, and you're trying to fly between them or whatever. And if so, having this section, which normally you wouldn't see, having it actually detailed with deck pieces and wires and things like that helps a whole lot, because then I can actually go in there and after drawing it, I can extend pieces so it looks like it's been torn out and stuff like that. But it assists me with this, so that way we can kind of get an idea of where things are going. And you're the outer fin. So we're going to take you and go this way and put you right there so that you are right on the edge. If I'm doing this logically, what I would do is this. Because then this would definitely tell me exactly where this goes on the map. Right? There we go. And then this looks like the front of it. It even matches in sort of design. Look at that. Almost like I meant it. Where does it go? Where does any of this stuff go? Who are you people? We'll put this guy. We can rotate it. Does this mean that you're on Twitch because Facebook started getting weird? You know what? I'm going to rotate this the other direction. Oh no, that sucks. Once it's in the middle of something, that'll really be an unpleasant place for it. Okay. So I feel like no matter what, we're going to have to kind of do something like this. I'm just trying to figure out if it's... How connected are you? You went home for lunch. Gotcha. Okay. Damn, this is kind of complicated here. I'm like trying to figure out how to get all of these pieces. So this is this point right here, and this is this side, and this is this side. Then this is this small section right there. Problem is, I'm not seeing as many sides as I've got here. A lot more sides than I thought I had. I really do think this is this. This way? Maybe. I'm just trying to find a way, because all of this needs to be embiggenated. And so we need to embiggenate. I'm trying to maximize where everything lives on this. Now I've done that. Now I can embiggenate the whole thing, right? There, embiggenated. Now it needs to be insmolated a little bit, just a little bit. That's good enough. Good enough for government work. So we'll hit save. Make sure we've saved it. And we will go back to this and go doot, 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 like so. And we'll do what we did before. Control, Shift, and S. Everything will dim. Line myself up there. And I've saved it. And I'll go over here. I'll paste. There we go. We'll call this gravity wing. Path. Can I click path? Okay. The one thing we will need to do, actually, we'll call this. It occurs to me that one of the things we will need to do is say over here, we'll go over here to go to object mode, and we'll say copy paste, right? So we'll move over here, and then we will do this and this, and we'll hit scale. And we're gonna flip it over, right? Where's my control? There we are. Where the heck did my control go? Oh, man. Do it. There we go. Now when we take this guy and we go into edit mode, we have to take this and flip it as well. But we don't flip it on this. No. Yes, we do. So we take all of these guys and we flip it 180. Right? We take, there's going to be a lot of pieces of this thing. We thought the project on the cars was difficult. Right? Now we go here. And we say in big and 8. In big and 8. Okay, and this becomes gravity wing start. Okay, we've done 3 whole pieces. Congratulations to us. Oh, it's just showing me that it's okay, good. I'm like, but I don't want it to be that way. 3 whole pieces of like 50. Actually, how many pieces do we have? We have here's 18 pieces, so it's actually, it's not that bad. We can do this in about 2 hours. I'll still be doing this after the show's over, but we can do it. Okay. I'm going ahead and do the nose cone. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We'll just put in, knowing that it's just going to be a pain in the butt, and knowing that it's just not going to even be nice to me, I'm going to go ahead and just start putting in a seam right off the bat. Work. So let's go ahead and mark UV, mark the seam along the front here. UV, we'll mark the seam too. feel like there may be a weird. Yeah, there's a weird right there. UV, mark that seam. We'll come around the side. We'll say UV. We need to actually select something first, guy. Now UV, mark the seam. Kind of going around. This is a very specialized piece of the Corvette. Mark the seam. So we're not going to have. Nope. U. Nope. U. There we go. UV. Mark the seam. This is, like I said, this is a very specialized piece of the Corvette. So we're going to want to. Of all of the pieces of this ship, this will be the only one that won't get reused or anything else. The most recognizable. Because it's the face. One of my streams is starting to die. All of my streams are dying again. So, it's at that time. I'm apparently not allowed to make 2-hour broadcasts. Okay, guys. We're having stream problems again. I'm going to keep going, but just in case it decides that I no longer can broadcast, and if it does continue, then okay, so it's just a few of these here done. But I'm seeing a red bar up on my broadcast section. You know how it goes. Sometimes I hear and sometimes not. So, as long as you can see me good. Go up here. Go across the top here. This seam. There we go. This is unseemly, would you think? Okay. I know. But that joke was unseemly. Another couple of seams down here. Go ahead and mark. And then I'll come across the top of this guy. Nope. A long time ago, I really thought this was clever. I'm regretting that thought. one of the drawbacks to learning things as you go is that you don't really do best practices the first time out. And we really don't have best practices going on here. And really should have, because it looks like and some of this could really stand to be done better, you know? This is me looking at the camera and going, I really should redo this model. This front piece is a mess. And I'm going to end up mapping it for hours. It's going to take hours to do this one piece in mapping mode. And it'd be a whole lot easier to just rebuild it from scratch. And then map it easier. And logically, if I rebuild this from scratch and make it without windows in the front, I can use this beak for other ships by putting different windows in it, different window structures, different things. I hate to do that, but it's the right answer. But it is. It's the right answer. It's the right answer, guys. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to rebuild this guy from scratch. So we're going to stop doing this. We're going to get out of UV mode and put it back into modeling mode. Work. We're going to take and go back into object mode and move the hull. Actually, what we should do is really just go to the top view here and get all of these pieces and move them out of the way. We can't see anything for all the pieces. They're here. I'm just going to move the rest of the ship out of the way. And we're going to move these guys, because they're done, over here. This is called the done pile. This is called the not done pile. And this is called the never to be done pile, because we're not mapping those. Okay, we're going to take you and put you here. And the reason we're putting you right in the dead center is because, really, frankly, everything seems to like to pivot around the center, the centroid of this. So, well, thank you, Tormund. Thank you, Brent. It is the right idea to do this. It's the right choice. It does mean that there's been some thinking it out. It still says we're having problems with connection on one of them. Wonder who it's. I don't know who we're having connection issue with. It doesn't tell me. Maybe that's what I'll do is I'll give them feedback that says, hey, when you have connection issues, put an exclamation point or something on whichever one up there on the streams is not working. That's correct. And I think that's the thing, is it's the right thing to do. It's not going to be the nicest or most fun thing to do, but let's just do this thing. We can sit here and talk about it all day long, or we can just do it. So we're going to do it. Okay. So how many sides do we technically have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to actually do a half. So we're going to do 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9-sided object. That's weird. That's just weird. Who does a 9-sided object? Okay, we're going to do Should we build it out of a cylinder? Maybe. Facebook's probably having issues. We're going to do a cylinder. So let's go here. We take our cylinder. We're going to rotate him 90 degrees. Remember, the longer you have this arm, the more fine control we have over him. Shrink him down to the right size. Move to here. We're just making this positioned correctly because remember, biggest problem we've already done is that all the interior pieces, 9 is a good number. It is a good number. All the interior pieces of this ship are already matched. So I've already done sort of a design concept for all the interior pieces of the ship. So the interior spaces match. So we need to make sure that whatever we do here, it matches at least roughly the shape that it needs to be. We're going to scale this down until it, whoa, we're going to apparently really bork things there. That's not good. So there we go. And move it down like so. Now we're lined up pretty good. And now we'll make it different in width. All right. There we go. Using the scale tool this way, we're going to change the width of this and then change the width of this until we match sides there. And clearly we've got kind of, first of all, if we go back to object mode and align you properly, like you're not lined up right. There we go. It's very hard to tell what you guys are doing since you're not lined up correctly. Well, this is actually a smart move anyway because it's looking like the actual object is off center. So this will help me anyway. And this is good for multiple reasons. Looks like the object's off center, things like that. Oh. All right. Now we've got sort of a design that fits similarly to the structure. We'll go to the back of this design here, right there. Object mode U, and I'm actually just move U over and out of the way so that you're not in the way. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at this. So what we can do now is go to U and say edit mode, and we'll go into here. And you know what? We can just match it up. We're only going to match up the port side. I believe this is the port side because I can't tell whether I'm looking at it or looking away from it. But we're only going to match up the port side because then we can do the mirror thing we've done before with the mirror modifier. we go. We'll move this guy to right here. Move this guy to right there. And we'll move this guy to right there. Okay. So now the back part matches in size and style. Now we just make the front part match and we'll be good. Now, what I did before for this was I made effectively a face and then a face design and then just chopped across it. So we're going to do the same thing here for this. We're just going to take the face piece, your face. We're gonna extend this out to here. Rotate this to match sort of that design, and then extend it up. Like so. We can make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to use a Boolean to cut across that, because this is hard to match up correctly. And so it's just going to be far, far easier for us to just take this and... Wow, I'm getting a lot of signals all of a sudden. A lot. Wow. How you people need to leave me alone. I'm doing work. There we go. There we go. So, like I said, what I'll do is, rather than go through, and I'm seeing some pieces of this that are going to need to be pulled down, though, for this. So, like, for example, these lines here, this line specifically is here, right? So to match up that piece, we'll do that. And then we'll just pull these guys straight down, because he needs to be straight down. Good heavens. It could be Kevin or Troy. It could be anybody at this point in time. 6 messages. Oh, well, has nothing to do with me. Although it is a discussion, it has nothing to do with me, which is fine. Okay, all I'm going to do now is just take these and level them. Because we can have a small amount of kind of a bottom lip there, and that'll be fine. But the truth is, we kind of want this. There we go. Okay, now that we've done this on this side, I'm going to do the same thing I did before with this. I'm just going to take a square. I'm going to cut across the planes of the face, so to speak. Your face. And we've now built sort of the front structure the way it's supposed to be. And I'm going to let this piece kind of go back like it was. So let's go on ahead and go into object mode. We're going to add a mesh. We're going to add a cube. We're going to go to one side. We're going to edit this cube so that it's like so. And then we're going to take it and we're going to turn it. We're not going to do that. We want it in object mode. Object mode. Object mode. Now turn it. until it matches sort of the angle we're after. I'm going to move to here. That's middle part of this. So it has, once again, it's wandered off of its point. So we're going to move it to its point so that this is the point. You can see this yellow dot. The yellow dot indicates its pivot point. So that's where all the objects are going to pivot around that point. If you end up moving the object away from the pivot point, then the object will move around that pivot point. It'll just move in a weird way. So now we can do this, and we'll put the pivot point, right, it's right there. So we'll do that, and then we'll go bork. And we'll line it up like so. I don't feel like we necessarily need to worry about this pivot, and the reason is because I think it already exists, right? So instead, what we're going to do, I'm going to make sure we're lined up there, and we're going to rotate it until it meets the face going sideways, this face, because we're going to take this part off right through here, your face, right? Because already we have the front plane there. So what we're looking at now is clipping through that section right there. So we'll move it back. Another option might be to do like an inverted cone or an inverted Yeah, let's do that. That might be better. Go back to here, and here's what we're going to do. Watch this. Watch this. You know, you'd think that I would learn from Han Solo never to say, watch this. It never ends well. It just cannot end well. It's like it's not allowed to end well. Okay, so we're going to take object mode, add mesh, and we're going to add a cylinder. We're going to move it back to here-ish, right? We're going to go to the top. I'm going to shrink the cylinder down until it's the right size of what we want. Right, like this. And I like the fact that it's an elongated cylinder because it's going to look cool. Okay, so now it's the same width. Here's what we're going to do. Take you. I'm going to make sure we go to the side here. And we're going to make this cylinder just slightly larger because Booleans get really screwed up if you don't do that. If the lines on the Boolean are exactly lined up, the Boolean gets weird. So we're going to not do that. So here's what we're going to do. We're in object mode. Take you, add modifier. We're going to take a Boolean. We're going to take the difference out of this object. We're going to accept that. Apply. Okay? Now we don't need this guy anymore. And now what we have is this object is, you can see it's sort of an inner cut, right? So we're going to take this guy, we're going to line up like so we can kind of see right down the cut of there. And then we're going to take this and we're going to use the red rotate until we get lined up and match. Then we're going to take this guy right here. We're going to move him forward. We probably should have done that from here, but that's all right. We'll make sure we'll move him back the correct way. We'll move him to directly here. This now should, and I don't see it being the way I want it. So I'm going to stretch the scale this way only till all the points match where I want it to be. It doesn't match the angle. Okay, so it's very important that we match the angle of the cone, right? So let's go on ahead and match that angle. because otherwise it's not going to cut right, and it's just going to be so weird. So here we go. We're going to cut into the cone this bizarre little Boolean difference. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Kablam. Nope, we were on the wrong one. We're going to take the cone. Hello, cone. There we go. And do a Boolean on that. Difference. Kablam. All right, now let's take a look at that and see what happened. Thanks. Right. Now, if we take the cockpit and move him away, here's what we've got. Not bad. Not a bad match at all. Look at that. So now we have a face on the front, which matches sort of the face over here, which I think is exactly how I did this face, but with fewer lines, because this just looks a little bit more dramatic. And so what we can always do, this took a lot of work to get to here, but that's okay. It's okay, because like we said, sometimes you just really need to do this the right way. Go to edit mode, and we will straighten up things like this. There we go. And, little things like this guy needs to just be backed up just a hair because he looks kind of strange. We'll go in here tight and move it over until we've got like everything kind of lined up, and that'll help us understand exactly what we're doing in this spot. Like he needs to be here. He needs to be here, and he needs to be here. All right, and then I'll straighten that up a little. And these two guys need to kind of come back, not be so stressy on the mesh. There we go. Remember, anything to the starboard of this particular piece doesn't need to be messed with at all because it's not part of the problem. It'll be duped out and removed, so I don't have to worry about it. So I can bring this up a little and bring this down and bring it in. There we go. I'm sure the mesh is like, you just returned it to where you were before. Yes, that's exactly right. Okay. Now we're going to go to the front of the mesh. We're going to, wow, there's still this guy behind here. We're going to select everything on this side of the mesh. And hit delete. Right, and delete all the vertices. Right. We're going to select this, go here, and we're going to put in a face. Your face. Right. And we're going to go to the back of it because that also got wiped out. And we're going to put in a face. Your face. There we go. Now we should have just half of the forward wing. There we go. That's what we're looking for. And we'll take you. We'll add a modifier. We'll say mirror. There we go. Looks good. We need to be in object mode. And apply. And there we go. Voila. We've built a new and frankly somewhat better nose piece for this and easier to deal with. The only thing we now need to build is we need to build the front landing gear bay. But this piece is no longer as messy and weird and bizarre as this piece was. Because this piece was cut from the other piece, it was strangely not aligned properly. Okay, so we're going to go to the top here. Make sure that these two are aligned properly and correctly before I put the landing gear bay in for it. I'm noticing I like the structure of this is a little bit more aggressive, which is fine. We can do this. Watch. Edit mode. Anything we do to one side now, we have to do the other because we were stupid enough to mirror. You know what? I'm just going to mirror out. There we go. Because if we do this, we can do this, right? We just slide this back over onto here and go to here. And we put ourselves in edit mode. And this will only have to take one of these instead of two of these. I don't have to match the sides up. Probably should have done this first, but that's okay. I do like how kind of not aggressive, but it was more rakish. We did this from this angle here, right? It's a little bit more rakish. Looks cool. So we'll just push this up a little bit more so it's got a little bit more of the same kind of cut around the edge there. I always say if you have to go back and redo something, try to improve it a little. Make it look a little bit better, right? I mean, you're going to be forced to do this anyway. Make it look a little better. But also keep the design elements you liked. And I liked the original kind of cut of this. It had a good aggressive cut. It was nice and aerodynamic-y sort of thing. And that's fine. It worked. There we go. Now let's talk turkey, huh? We have about 4 minutes left. We're going to go in here and deal with this bay. The good news is the bay was just a square. So we'll go into object mode. We'll do the bay real quick. Add mesh. We'll add a cube. We'll go to the side. Put it in naked mode. We can see the bay pretty clearly here. I'll go into edit mode and we'll take and just put to that cut right there. And we'll put to the forward cut, which was right there. And then the top cut, which was right there. Pretty straightforward, shouldn't be a problem. Let's go to the back and make sure that the side cuts are correct. And that was right there. This should still fit then the landing gear struts and things like that we have already built for this particular model. And just to make sure I don't accidentally cut the wrong thing. We'll make sure it's the right size. All right. So there's our landing bay. We're going to go back into object mode. We're going to take you. We're going to move you out of the way. And take you. Add modifier. Boolean. Difference. And we're going to cut this object out of you. There you go. Apply. Right. So now we are in object mode. So we can just take this guy and move him away. And voila, we have the landing bay. Okay. Now we will apply the mirror to it and apply and take a look at it. And we have a mimic that's smoother, nicer, cleaner. It'll be easier to deal with. And I can reuse it as a destroyer nose if I want to, by putting different graphics on it and different things and fins and whatever on the front. So that shouldn't be a problem. So there we go. That was kind of a pain in the butt, and it was aggravating and annoying and stuff, but there we go. So we'll save. We have a new nose. We don't need this anymore either. I think all of the pieces now are somewhere else. So the nose is solid, so we will save. And that will be the way that works. So, all right. So we've done quite a bit of work on this. Like I said, it's the hero. So since it's a hero, I kind of want it to be, I'm willing to put in the extra hours for it. Also, we're planning ahead here a little bit. Because this is the hero, the thought process that we're kind of working on is that it is, we're thinking ahead on the structure of the ship. So now I can build bigger ships. I can use pieces and just remap them in a different way and things like that. And you'll have a design ethic that fits. I probably should have done that. I probably should have rebuilt every piece and really thought through all of the pieces instead of doing what I've done, which is take the existing pieces and just slice through and take them apart. But again, hindsight, right? We'll figure it out. So over the weekend, I probably will, I hate to say this because I'm going to cry, but I will probably redo the main body as well, because it's not taking booleans anymore because there's so much damage to the mesh that it's not sealed and watertight anymore. And so a boolean cut into it won't work. It just cuts a hole in the actual outside of the skin. So I can't add things. So there's kind of that problem. So anyway, that's where we are. What I was saying, hi Brent, welcome back. What I was saying was I probably will redo the main body too, because it wasn't taking booleans anymore. You couldn't, it wasn't a sealed, there's a hole somewhere in it. So there's a hole in some aspect of it. So probably I'll have to rebuild the main hull. Doesn't seem to be a hole in the wing, so I'll leave the wing alone. Can I call you Ath? But there's some hole section in the center hole because it's not taking booleans anymore. So I'll rebuild it. So, 'tis the way it goes. I'm pretty happy with the nose cone. Nose cone looks good, or what we call the gravity beak. It looks good. So I'll leave it to its own devices. In the meantime, as always, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and a lot of fun. And I will see you on Monday. And make sure that you have a good time and do the things you want to do. And as always, keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye. Computer, good night.